ॐ भद्रं मे अपि वातयमनः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। न पुण्यं न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं, न पापं न सौख्यं न दुःखं, न मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदा न यज्ञाः।
मन्त्रो न तीर्थं न वेदाय यज्ञः।
अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता।
अहं भोजनं नैव भोज्यं न भोक्ता।
चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्।
चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहम्.
I thought we had done this verse, but there were numerous questions that arose about it. How can we give up dharma? How can we give up Tirtha Yatra? How can we give up yajna? And so I thought it's nice, it would be good to dwell on it a little more, to get this very clear in the head. We will take a little trip to the Kathopanishad to this end, where a young lad by the name of Nachiketa goes to Lord Yama, not on his own, because he is asked the father. The father is doing one particular kind of a homa called Vishvajit in order to go to Brahmaloka. And in this homa, you have to give everything away. This boy is small, in between, he's napping or playing, we don't know what he's doing. But when he wakes up, he sees all kinds of old cows being dragged out. The young ones have already been given away. He hasn't, he's missed that. He's small. So, what kind of cows does he see? He sees the cow that has eaten all the grass allotted to it by Bhagavan in the span of this lifetime. And then he sees another kind of cows which have given all the milk allotted to them by Bhagavan to give, nothing more. And then he sees cows nirindriyaha. Nirindriyaha means they can neither see nor they can hear nor they can. God only knows why they are alive and how they are alive, but somehow they are alive and standing. He sees these kinds of cows being taken out, and then he feels very bad. He says, how will my father get Brahmaloka giving these kinds of cows? I'm a young fellow, I'm strong, I'm bright, I'm better than these cows. And he doesn't understand that as a child, he's not property. Women and children are not property. We have a very different understanding of that. In fact, even in Victorian England, women and children were considered property, but never in ancient India, never in India. And so he doesn't understand that. He's a small boy, and he goes and worries the father while the father is in the midst of this very important ritual. Kasmai mam dasyasi tata, kasmai mam dasyati. Who are you going to give me to? Who are you going to give me to? Vihi, trihi, two times, three times. The father is also patient. After that, he says, go to hell. I'm sending you to Lord. The Indian version of saying that, go to hell, is, I'm sending you to Lord Yama. Go. And he says, okay, I'm going. No, 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 I did not mean it. No, no, no. You are still small. He says, no. Once the word is given, it is sacred, I have to go. And and when he reaches there, he finds that Lord Yama is out of town. He is off to collect a few things, jivas. And so he has to wait there till Yama comes back. Mrs. Yama tells him, "Come inside, eat something. You are a small brahmachari. We would like to honor you, bring you inside, wash feet, and then give you water to drink, give you food to eat." He says, "No, no, I have nothing to do with you. I've come here as a servant to Lord Yama. And until he comes, I can't eat, I can't drink, I can't come inside until he tells me to." So then Yama comes back, and then he's ceremonially brought inside. And this boy has a lot of questions. And since 3 days and 3 nights he lived out of the house, in lieu of that, Lord Yama gives him 3 boons. The first 2 boons are used up, making sure the father is okay and making sure that he will also be sent back to his parents in the same form, not as a preta. Preta means, disembodied being. No, in the same form where they will recognize me. So the first 2 boons are used up, and he wants to know how to go to Brahmaloka. What is the ritual for that? That's the other boon is also used up. Now, with this one remaining boon, he wants to know the nature of the that which survives after death. Lord Yama says, "You're a young boy. You should be playing. You should be happy. You should be doing this. What are you doing? Why are you asking these kinds of questions?" Even the Devas previously wanted to know about all this, and even they too did not succeed. He thought saying this would be a deterrent, but it had the opposite effect. Oh, even the Devas wanted to know, then I definitely want to know. That which is good for the Devas is good for me. I also want to know this. And so, in this conversation, when the teaching begins, just before the teaching begins, Lord Yama classifies the pursuits in life into, into two. One is called Shreyas. Anyadeva Shreyah. Anyadutaiva Preyah. Te ubhe nanarthe purushassinitah. So he says there are two things. They are completely opposite of one another. One is called Shreyas, which is moksha, which is freedom from seeking altogether. And what is the other one? Prayas. What is prayas? Those who choose prayas are saying, "Please pray for us." That is all it is. Prayas, finite ends. Finite, using finite means finite ends. And so, anyadutaiva prayah. And you can't say, "Well, both of them don't look good. I'm not going to choose either of them." There you do choose one. Even if you don't choose one, then if you say, "I'm not choosing prayas," that means what are you doing? Choosing Shreyas. Prayas is Arthakama pursuits, and Shreyas is moksha. So this dharma, artha, kama comes under prayas. And so if you say, "I'm not choosing prayas," then that means what? You're choosing Shreyas. If you say, "I don't want Shreyas," you're automatically by default choosing prayas. Because of this, he says, Te ubhe nanarthe purushas sinitah. They bind the person, both prayas and Shreyas, because one is bound by arthakama pursuits. That's very easy to see. And then the second thing is also easy to see, is that one is bound by Shreyas in the sense that everybody is seeking moksha. One is hardwired to seek moksha. especially in the human incarnation. And so, therefore, the uh, the both of them have a very prominent place. Both these pursuits have a prominent place in one's life. Tayoho Shreya, out of these two pursuits, Lord Yama tells baby Nachiketa, out of these two pursuits, Shreya adadhanasya sadhu bhavati. Out of these two pursuits, for the one who chooses Shreyas, it is a very good choice. One's well-being is assured. And then the sadhu bhavati, hiyate arthat ya u preyo vrinite. The one who chooses prayers, what happens? Hiyate. Hiyate means gets lost, falls off the track, falls off the track of the very meaning of life, the very purpose in life, gets distracted, gets lost, gets sidetracked, however we want to put it. This is a very important verse talking about the incompatibility of these two pursuits. You cannot say, I want a little bit of Shreyas and a little bit of prayers. Why can't it be like a buffet? Little bit prayers, little bit Shreyas. I just pick a little bit and do this. That's not how Brahma Vidya works. That's not how one discovers Chidananda Swarupa. Satchidananda Swarupa is not discovered by little bit of this and little bit of that. Then in another verse, the same Shreyas and prayers are talked about, and Lord Yama says that Shreyascha prayascha manushyametah. Shreyas and prayers approach the person, the human being. And then what happens? Then the person who chooses Shreyas has made a wise choice, and that person is called Dhiraha, Buddhiman. The one who has Buddhi is called Dhiraha. And not only one who has Buddhi, but one who has enough Buddhi to share with others. Dhihi rati dadati iti dhiraha. So the one who has proper discrimination. The person of proper discrimination he chooses Shreyas. And who is the one who chooses prayers? Mandaha. Manda means slightly dull. Slightly dull means what? No viveka. Viveka means what? Discrimination. Discernment. Between what and what? Discernment between what is permanent and what is time bound. Choosing the permanent and eschewing the time bound is what is talked about here. And so the manda means the one who is not alive to this choice, the one who does not have the discernment, the inner discernment to make this choice. Preyaha, preyo vrinite, chooses prayers. But why? Yoga kshemat vrinite. For the fear of not having the things they want in life, and for collecting the things they want in life, and for protecting the things they have in life. We have talked about yoga and kshema earlier. So this is why, because of the yoga kshema pursuits, the person chooses the wrong choice repeatedly, again and again and again. And so this is how the Kathopanishad depicts these choices. And here in this verse, where you say there is no dharma, no artha, no kama, we saw that also. No dharma, artha, kama, and no moksha also. And then there is no papa, no punya, no yajna, no mantra, no tirtha. It seems a little bit drastic, because we have been told in another context that antahkarana shuddhi is required, the cleansing of the heart of strong prejudices and preferences is a very important thing in life. And so, to this end, what does one have to do? Earn a lot of punya so that there are no obstacles to this pursuit. Get rid of papa. How do you get rid of papa? You go to Kumbh Mela. This is what one has to do. You go to Kumbh Mela, you go to all these other tirtha yatras. What do you call it in English? Something pilgrimage. You go to pilgrimages. There are many, many pilgrim sites. And so you go to pilgrimages and you feed the people there. And sometimes people do one pilgrimage to another pilgrimage. And India is just a, what should I say, a complete heaven in terms of pilgrimages. You can visit all the Shakti Peethas, the goddess sites. You can visit all the Navagraha temples. You can do like this many, many things. You can visit rare and old temples, the likes of which are not there anywhere. All this one can do, and then we are told that this is necessary. And of course, you can't throw away the Veda. Veda, the first portion of the Veda, the Karma Kanda, is necessary because it teaches us how to pray. It teaches us how to convert our desires into prayer. All this is necessary. And then this verse comes along and says, what? Bye bye to all of them. And so this can be a little confusing. I think people had a little bit of a trouble with this verse from what I could see in the question answer session. And so therefore it is good to look at it from the standpoint of Shreyas and Preyas. So here this mantra, yajna and tirtha. Tirtha means the visiting the pilgrimage sites, mantra, meditation, and various chanting various hymns and shlokas and pujas, and everything is included under mantra, not just meditation. So all of those are are important, all right, but they belong to the realm of prayers. Why? Because they are all time bound. Pilgrimages are time bound. Even if you say, I have visited 365 sites, it is still a finite number, is it not? Yes, it's time bound. And the kind of punya it can give, punya is eminently time bound. The punya is time bound because the action that produces the punya is what? Also time bound. Punya is time bound. And then the whatever action you can do is time bound. How many yajnas can you do? That is also a finite number. Even if you do Agnihotra every day after marriage for the rest of the life, even that is time bound. Everything is time bound. And then the first portion of the Veda we have seen is time bound. The kind of rituals that it gives is time bound. The kind of effects of those rituals are also time bound. And then mantras, all the hymns and the effects, their effects are also time bound. That's why you have to keep chanting, keep chanting. And tirthas, the pilgrimages, are time bound. And then punya is also time bound. The punya that takes you to afterlife is also time bound. And then suddenly you are in the middle of a fantastic dance program, dance and music concert by yakshas, gandharvas, kinnaras, the celestial musical beings. And Urvashi and Menaka are dancing, heavenly nymphs. And then what? The punya runs out in the middle of the concert. And then one has to come back to the world of mortals. Shine punye martyalokam vishanti. One comes back. No, but can I not stay in Swarga, in heaven, and get permanent residency through marrying Urvashi, Menaka, Yaksha, Gandharva, Kinnara? No. They are all on temporary visa, okay? Yeah. You can't get a heavenly green card. Not possible. Not possible. They are also time bound. Their punya has taken them there. Your punya has taken them your punya has also taken you there. They have punya vishesha. They are the celestial beings have primarily punya. Whereas the animals, those animals are called tiryak because they grow sideways. You meet a dog, and when it is 2 months old, it is like this. When you meet it when it's about 4 or 5 months old, it is a little bit like this. Especially if it's a Dachshund dog, yeah. So, so it grows more sideways than vertically. It is called tiryak, and those are called papayonaya. Means they are predominantly papa papa bodies. Not that they are bad or anything. Not that your pets, cats and dogs are bad or they are born of papa. We should not take it like that. This is actually a very deep thing. It is said that they are papa yonaya. Their birth is because predominantly papa, because poor things, they cannot express their thoughts. Therefore, they become victims of abuse. They become victims of domestication. What choice does the horse have? What choice does the buffalo, the bull has, other than to till the land and to press the oil or whatever it is used for? They cannot express pain. They do not have freedom. They are programmed. They cannot desire moksha. And so, what about the human beings? Every human being's last name should be Mishra. Little bit of Papa, little bit of Punya mixed up. Mishra means mixed up. And so, therefore, that gives a human life. And so, anything that one does to make one's life comfortable, either in the here or in the hereafter, is again due to time bound activities which are giving time bound results. If you understand this, no problem. Go to Tirtha Yatra, nothing. Nothing is the issue. But here we are talking of people whose priorities are mixed up. And that is why it helps to understand the difference between Shreyas, Preyas. And so when we see that all this is Preyas, and stopping the seeking of Preyas is what is called Shreyas. When you choose Shreyas, Preyas comes along for free. This is what people don't know. Even though they are completely opposite, Shreyas includes everything. Shreyas includes the freedom from seeking altogether. Shreyas being limitless, the choice of Shreyas being limitless includes Preyas, includes the finite. Oh, then it should be the same the other way around. If I choose Preyas, Shreyas is included. Yes or no? No. If you choose Preyas, then one is choosing the time bound, the limitless is not included. The other way around, that's why Shreyas is the best choice, because it includes everything, including prayers. So, here, from the standpoint of Shreyas, all these things are of no use. And they are no use because there is these are the distinctions. These are all time bound pursuits. And then the last line which says bhojyam bhokta, all these things we saw. This triputi that is there, karta karma karanam, pramata prameya and pramana, like this, seer sight seen, knower known knowledge, all these distinctions are not there in which reality? That reality I am, which is this self conscious and existent, self existent, self conscious awareness, whose nature is always limitless and free. This is what I want to be, and this is what I already am. Next one, please. न मृत्युर्न शङ्का न मे जातिभेदः पिता नैव मे नैव माता न जन्म न बन्धुर्न मित्रम् न गुरुर्नैव शिष्यः चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं चिदानन्दरूपः शिवोऽहं शिवोऽहं. Continuing. So here name mrityu shanka. Shanka means doubt. Mrityu is what? Death. There is no death doubt for me. Meaning what? I am free of the doubt whether I am mortal. I'm free of that doubt. Meaning I am immortal. I know I am immortal, so there is no doubt in my mind that I am subject to death. That doubt is not there. No doubt at all. Why? Because Atma does not die. Why does the Atma not die? What is the simple reason? It's not born. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityuhu dhruvam janma mritasya cha. That which is born is certain to die. Arjuna is told in the Bhagavad Gita. And that which is dead is sure to be born. The cycle continues of birth and death and death and birth, it continues. So here, birth itself is not there. I am the birthless Chidananda, I am the birthless Satchidananda. So that which is birthless is deathless. Of this, for me, there is absolutely no doubt. Na jati bhedah. Jati bheda means like different positions in life. In the contemporary society, you can say this one is a big celebrity, big shot. So everybody goes and then approaches them for autograph, gives them a seat to sit, honors them, and all these things. Garlands them, gives them a present because they have achieved something or they are big people in society, and then there's always in some kind of an awe if somebody is big. And in every society there are certain hierarchies, and so the two kinds of hierarchies in ancient India are talked about. The cream of the crop in ancient India, first is the Brahmana, the one who studies, known for their erudition, and they know the Vedas, and they are able to do pujas, yajnas, etc. And they are kind of leaders of the society. And they are not monastics, they are married, and then they continue to help the people and all this. Highly respected for their erudition. These are what are called Brahmanas. But the Brahmanas, are not strong and they are not known for their strength. They are kind of nerdy. You go and they just fall over. That's all it is. They're not really known for their strength and six pack abs and all these things. Yeah. They're not known for that. That is who? Kshatriyas. They are strong. They have resilience. They are warriors. They are the stuff of which kings and queens are made. They are the ruling class. So this Brahmana, Kshatriya, these kinds of distinctions, they are called Jati Bheda. Again, somehow the Kathopanishad keeps inserting itself, even though I keep telling it, this is Nirvana Shatkam. But the Kathopanishad keeps inserting itself, and a very beautiful mantra is there, describing a person of knowledge. Yasya brahma cha kshatram cha ubhe bhavatah odanaha. Mrityuhu yasya upasechanam kaitha veda yatra saha. Very beautiful mantra. Fantastic mantra. And it looks like perhaps Shankaracharya was thinking of this mantra in the Kathopanishad when he brought these two expressions together, Mrityu Shanka and Jati Bheda together. And then where else will you find it together other than in the Kathopanishad in this particular mantra? Beautiful mantra. So this mantra is describing a person of self knowledge who understands I am Chidananda Rupaha, I am Shiva, the one who understands. And then what is life like for this person? For this person, the categories of the society, the cream of the top categories of societies, like Brahma, Kshatra, like Brahmana, Kshatriya, etc., they become what? Dal and rice for him. He makes khichdi. She makes khichdi out of them. Yes. Odanam, odanaha means food. It is just food, dal and rice. That's the main dish. Who? Brahmana, Kshatriya. Not that the person is eating Brahmanas for lunch and Kshatriyas for dinner. Don't take it literally. It means that the person who is making short shrift of these divisions in society, who has transcended the divisions. And then what is death for this person? Chutney. Upasechanam means a little side dish, chutney. Death is chutney to whom? In fact, death makes everybody into chutney. Okay? And for this person of knowledge, death is like a little chutney on the side, a little pickle on the side. And then Kaitha Veda Yatra Saha, who knows where this, what this person is like, who knows the reality of this person? Meaning, only another person who has self knowledge can understand this person. So, I think if we use this mantra to shine the light on this verse, it becomes very, very clear because the same exact sentiments are expressed in both the places. The same exact sentiments that these categories are devoured in the light of this knowledge. Because why are the categories devoured? Because they have no meaning. Because all that the person of self knowledge sees is an extension, the whole Jagat is an extension of themselves. If they are looking at the Jagat. If they are not looking at the Jagat, if you go and ask them, what do you think of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, what do you think of the Jagat? They'll say, what Jagat? And that is the correct response from where one sits. What universe, what Jagat, what are you talking about? There is only Satchidananda, there is no Jagat. And so these categories are transcended by whom? So there is, and also that immortality is understood by whom? And this is the person who is Chidananda Swarupa. And then what else? Okay, if there is no death and if there is no birth, then where is the question of mother, father? Mother, father means origin. Where is the question of origin if there is no death at all and there is no birth for the I, the Atman? Then there is no mother, no father. This also can be a little bit of a lump in the throat causing moment. OMG, how can I disown my parents? How can I disown the people who gave birth to me? It's not a disowning, it's a cognitive understanding. Even on the empirical level of various divisions, this is very easy to understand. From the standpoint of the Vedic tradition, what do we have here? We have the belief in reincarnation. So, how do we know what we were in the last life? Nobody knows. And then the life before that, can we recall? No. And how about the life before that? No. All we know is that there were these lives, and in each lives there were parents. There was mother, father, there was all kinds of things. So mother, father means which mother, father? After finishing that birth, I have forgotten all about that mother and father. Thanks to the veil of Maya, I don't remember anything. I don't feel beholden to them. I don't feel obligated. I don't feel like I don't feel regret that I should have taken proper care of them. I don't feel any kind of resentment. They were not there for me. Nothing is there. It's all gone. In one lifespan, it's all gone. Totally gone. What mother, what father, which mother, which father should be I be faithful to, which mother should I take care of? All this is not there even on the empirical level. And then again on the level of the empirical reality, vyavaharika satta, here again we can help ourselves by this cognitive space, developing a cognitive space. This is what it means. One is daughter, one is son. Yes. And this status of being daughter or son brings with it certain roles. It's a role, and that role has certain functions in it and certain, what is that called? Certain responsibilities. The role has certain responsibilities. As a daughter, this is what I'm supposed to do. As a son, this is what I'm supposed to do. But this roles, all these roles, mother, father, daughter, son, spouse, these roles are can be executed very well and without stress. When I know who I am, oh, that may take a whole lifetime. Doesn't matter. Right now, we can say one is a devotee first and foremost, one is a bhakta. One has to mint oneself into a bhakta, and from that standpoint, what happens is that one sees very, 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 very clearly that first and foremost, I am a devotee. Then I can say I am a devotee son, a devotee daughter. This keeps the role stress free, because at any given point, if there is stress, then I know what has happened. The role has rolled on to me, the person. The person is the devotee, and then the role is something that is performed to the best of our abilities. But the problems of the relationship belong to not the person, the Purusha, not the devotee, but to the role. The problems belong to the role, not to the person. And so, the person and the role, are they two different things? Yes and no. From the standpoint of the role, the person and the role are one, because without the person, there is no role. The role depends on the person for its execution. But from the standpoint of the person, the role is separate from the person. Go back to looking at the example of the actor who has to play the role of the beggar. Beggar is not separate from actor, but certainly the actor is not a beggar. And so it doesn't mean naiva mata na pita. If one is not able to see this, it doesn't mean disowning the natal family. It means cognitively getting space through this understanding that the role and the person are different. From the standpoint of the person, the role is something that is expendable. The person is invariable. The role comes and goes. And this is what one has to understand and appreciate totally, and have a little bit of inner space between the person and the role. This also cleans up all kinds of dysfunctional relationship. Every kind of dysfunctional relationship is totally cleaned up because of this particular exercise. Na mata, naiva pita, then na janma. That is wrong. It's not janma, it should just be janma. And so, na janma, no birth. Birth is not there. Because if death is not there, birth also is not there. What is born dies, body, mind, sense complex is born. What is born is a house. And this house is a nicely ventilated house, just right for the indweller, me. It's just like when you check into a hotel room. You check into the room, have a good time in the new place that you're going, and then after that, what do? You drop off the key and you check out. This is also a hotel room, except you don't know the checkout date. That's all. We don't know the date of checkout, but that checkout date will come, and that time we just leave everything. That's all it is, nothing to take. So, what is this? Is just a home, it's a temporary home. What's the permanent home? The permanent home is home with H silent. It is Om. That is my permanent home. Om is home. Om is Bhagavan. Om is the truth of myself. Om is Satchidananda. And this Om, I have to be at home with Om. This is what I have to do. To understand this verse, no birth, no death, no mother, no father. What else is there? Oh, no bandhu. Bandhu means relatives. Mitram means friend. No relatives and friends. Same thing like the same exercise we do with regard to the parents, whatever we did to get that inner space. Same thing we do with the friends and the relatives. You have a certain inner space. How to have this inner space? Grant them the freedom to be whoever they are. Oh, but they annoy me. That means you don't have inner space. If they bug me. If they bug you, that means you need to grant them a little more freedom to be who they are and not begrudge them. And then the relationship is not so dysfunctional. Then we have one more dyad. So, father, mother, one dyad, birth, death, another dyad. Dyad means group of two. And then we have the bandhu and mitra. What is bandhu and mitra? The relatives and friends. One more dyad. And the last dyad is what? Guru and Shishya. The last frontier of duality. That too undergoes a transformation, that too undergoes a resolution. How? We will see tomorrow evening, correct? Yes. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaga Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om